Welcome to IR Decoded. Today we begin a brand new series, Middle East Conflicts Simplified. The Middle East has been one of the most conflict-prone regions in the world, and in this video we will give you an overview of why that is, what the major conflicts are, and how they shape global politics. Why the Middle East? The Middle East is often described as the crossroads of the world. Why? Because it sits right between Europe, Asia and Africa. That makes it a strategic hub for trade, for military presence and for diplomacy. Add to that huge reserves of oil and natural gas, which the world depends on. But it's not about resources. The region is also deeply important for religion. It's the birthplace of Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. Now imagine a strategic location, massive resources, and religious significance, all packed in one region. That's why the Middle East has always been central to world politics. Now the historical background. To understand today's conflicts, we need to go back a bit. For centuries, most of the region was under the Ottoman Empire. And when it collapsed after World War I, European powers like Britain and France divided up the land through agreements like Sykes-Picot. Sykes-Picot. It was in 1916. But these borders didn't reflect the ethnic or religious realities of the people living there. That's where the seeds of tension were planted. Then in 1948, the creation of Israel brought another layer of conflict, especially with Arab neighbors. And from that moment, wars and rivalries came piling. The next slide is major conflicts. Now, let's look at some of the biggest conflicts, the Israel-Palestine struggle, and it has defined the region for decades. The Iran-Iraq war in the 1980s showed how brutal regional rivalries could be, and the Gulf War, especially the 2003 US invasion of Iraq, reshaped power balances. And more recently, the Syrian civil war and the Yemen conflict have caused massive humanitarian crisis. And each of these conflicts is unique, but they all connected by deeper regional and global dynamics. Don't worry, in this series we'll break them down one by one for you. The key drivers of the conflict. So what actually drives conflict in the Middle East? First is religion, the Sunni-Shia divide, especially between Saudi Arabia and Iran, and the second is oil. Whoever controls oil and natural gas controls the global influence. Third is foreign powers. From the US and Russia to Britain and France, outsiders have always interfered to protect their interests in the Middle East. And finally, regional rivalries. Iran and Saudi Arabia are competing for dominance, Israel versus the Arab neighbors, and these forces overlap and fuel conflict or after conflict. What is the impact on the world of these conflicts? These conflicts don't just stay in the Middle East, they affect the entire world. Oil prices rise and fall depending on wars in the Gulf. The refugee crisis impact Europe and beyond. Terrorism and extremism often grow out of unstable regions. And superpowers compete for influence here, making the Middle East a global chessboard. In other words, what happens in the Middle East rarely stays in the Middle East. Today's hotspots. So what about today? The Israel-Palestine conflict is as tense as ever, especially in Gaza. The Syrian civil war hasn't fully ended. Parts of the country remain divided. Yemen is suffering one of the worst humanitarian crises in modern history, and Lebanon faces political and economic collapse. These are not just local issues. They keep the Middle East at the center of the world politics. Next, So this was an introduction to Middle East conflicts, and think of it as the big picture. Okay, in the next videos we will go step by step, starting with the Ottoman Empire, then its disintegration, and then how Arab nationalism shaped the region. Stay tuned because each conflict has its own story, and we're going to decode them all. Don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss the series. Thank you.